Hey guys, tonight we explore the quiet wonders of boring science for sleep. Gentle bubble formation in a fizzy lemon soda. You cradle a frosty glass in your hand, feeling beads of condensation slide lazily down its chilled sides as golden effervescence shimmers within. You probably won't resist another batch. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Share where you are right now and your local time in the comments, because I love imagining bubbles rising around the globe. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You lift the glass to your lips and inhale deeply, tasting the sharp tang of citrus and the faint sweetness of cane sugar dancing on your tongue before you even sip. Mainstream science fact: carbon dioxide dissolves in liquid under pressure, forming tiny acidified ions that create that signature tingle on your taste buds when they escape. You swirl gently, watching the sunbeam through your window split into prismatic halos as bubbles cling to the glass's interior, each one a microcosm waiting to be born. Here's a quirky tidbit: some avant-garde mixologists infuse their sodas with ultrasonic vibrations to nucleate bubbles on demand. Though it sounds like you're auditioning for a sci-fi lab scene, chemists still debate whether those high-frequency waves actually yield smoother, longer-lasting fizz, or just give you an excuse to buy expensive gadgets. At the bottom of the glass, you spot a cluster of fizz clinging like dew on a spider's web, perfectly still until something nudges them into motion. You tap the glass lightly, and with that gentle jolt, dozens of tiny spheres break free in a synchronized exodus, like a miniature parade marching upward in graceful arcs. Gentle sarcasm surfaces: if only your daily to-do list could be tackled so elegantly. 3 jokes already, you're on a roll. You sip, and the soda's cool. Pricky sensation tickles your tongue, releasing a flash of brightness that feels almost electric. Between sips, you lean closer and notice microscopic imperfections in the glass, minute scratches or dust specks that act as nucleation sites for bubble birth. Mainstream science fact: bubbles form where dissolved CO2 gathers around tiny cavities or particles, reaching a critical size before detaching and ascending. Without those nucleation sites, your soda would remain unnaturally flat, like a silent carnival ride without the thrill. Here's another quirky tidbit: old-school soda makers used sugar crystals deliberately seeded on the glass interior to jumpstart fizz, though purists still debate whether that yields real flavor enhancement or just a sticky cleanup. Chemists still debate whether natural impurities outperform engineered seeding in sustaining effervescence. You tilt the glass slightly, and the bubbles trace delicate trails upward, their speed and size shifting as they merge or split mid-ascent. Some rise in solitary elegance, others cling together, forming tiny conga lines of effervescent joy. You watch as a group coalesces into a larger orb halfway to the surface, wobbling slightly before darting onward. Gentle sarcasm bubbles up: if only your email inbox cleared itself in such orderly lines. You pause and inhale again, drawing lemon pepper volatiles carried on the bubble tops into your nose. Flavor gas interaction fact: aromatic compounds hitch rides on rising CO2 bubbles, then pop at the surface to release their scent in concentrated bursts, heightening your sensory experience. It's like each bubble is a tiny messenger delivering a citrus telegram straight to your brain. As you sip once more, you feel the glass warm subtly in your hand. Thermal influence fact: warmer liquid holds less dissolved gas, so bubbles form faster and grow larger at room temperature than in your chilled glass. If you prefer a slow motion rise, keep your soda at fridge cold levels. Otherwise, you get rapid sprites that vanish as quickly as they appear. Here's a fringe tidbit: some bubble artisans experiment with magnetic fields to subtly align CO2 molecules, claiming it produces magnetized fizz with a more uniform bubble distribution. Though skeptics question if that's science or sorcery, chemists still debate whether those magnetic manipulations meaningfully alter bubble behavior or just make for fun party tricks. You notice the frothy foam accumulating at the rim, tiny bubbles coalescing into a pillowy crown. Mainstream science fact: surface tension and Marangoni flows drive bubbles laterally after they reach the top, creating a soft foam layer that insulates the liquid below and slows gas escape. That froth isn't just decoration, it's a delicate barrier preserving your soda's sparkle. A light joke drifts if your worries could foam over and float away like that. Life would be blissfully breezy. You sip through the foam, savoring the transition from sharp carbonation to mellow lemon nuance. It feels like a natural pause in the effervescent symphony. Chemical equilibrium fact: as CO2 exits, the soda gradually loses fizz until it reaches a new balance between dissolved gas and atmospheric pressure, leading to that flat soda lull. You lean back, appreciating that controlled decline like the gentle fade-out of a lullaby. Between sips, you reflect on how three simple elements, gas, liquid, and a cold vessel, dance together in this serene ritual. It's poetic, invisible gas forming bubbles that carry flavor and fragrance, rising in graceful arcs until they burst into silent celebration. Gentle sarcasm resurfaces: if only your morning commute were this poetic instead of honking horns and brake lights. You finish the last swirl, noting the glass's interior has dulled in sparkle, CO2 levels have dipped, and the dance is slowing. Quirky tidbit: some mixers add a dash of edible surfactant to stabilize foam and prolong the head, though purists still debate whether that chemical artistry ruins soda's classic simplicity. Chemists still debate whether surfactant-stabilized foam enhances enjoyment or just feels too engineered for bedtime calm. You set the empty glass aside, listening to the faint hum of the fan and the settling hush of your kitchen. Reflect on that first swirl of zesty reality and the final silent glow of spent bubbles. You've witnessed carbonation origins, nucleation sparks, bubble birth and rise, and foam formation, all weaving an effervescent tapestry in your mind. Lean back, close your eyes, and anticipate Section 2's deep dive into the factory machinery that pressurizes your soda into existence. You shift your focus from the glass in your hand to the unseen choreography behind every fizzy sip, the colossal factory machinery that infuses your lemon soda with effervescence. In a cavernous stainless steel vat, you imagine liquid lemonade coursing through pressurized tubes, while high-pressure carbon dioxide is injected in measured bursts. You probably won't notice the industrial hum under cafe clatter, but that steady hiss is the soundtrack of controlled chaos. Mainstream science fact: carbon dioxide dissolves into a liquid when subjected to pressures above atmospheric levels, typically around 2 to 3 atmospheres in commercial soda, forming carbonic acid that gives your drink its characteristic zing. Without this pressurization, your beverage would be as flat as yesterday's headlines. Chemists still debate whether ultra-high-pressure methods produce better mouthfeel or just cost more money on fancy compressors. You picture technicians monitoring gauges that read psi like starship navigators charting warp speed. They're dialing in just the right pressure so that, once sealed, your soda holds on to its carbonation until you crack open the cap. Too little pressure, and you get a tepid sigh rather than a jubilant pop. Too much, and you risk a beverage geyser worthy of a viral video. Gentle sarcasm surfaces. If only your car's tire pressure were this glamorous. Imagine every morning starting with a champagne fountain. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some craft soda producers have experimented with liquid CO2 directly chilled to 78 degrees, aiming to freeze microscopic gas slurries into the drink for a solid fizz effect, though it sounds like you're blending your soda with dry ice for a Halloween party. Purists still debate whether frozen CO2 slurries actually enhance effervescence or just give you frostbite in your taste buds. You lean closer, leaning on an imagined control console, and envision the carbonation chamber as a giant pressure cooker. Only friendlier, no meatloaf here. Just science. In your mind's eye, a gauge needle quivers between bubbly and supernova, then settles on a gentle hiss. It's callback magic to Section 1's sensory start. That hiss is the same whispering excitement you heard when you first inhaled those lemon pepper volatiles. As liquid and gas meet under pressure, you spy tiny vortices forming where the CO2 streams enter the lemonade miniature whirlpools that churn up dissolved minerals and sugars, ensuring a uniform distribution of flavor and fizz. Mainstream science fact mixing under pressure not only dissolves gas, but also helps homogenize the solution, preventing pockets of flatness or overly gassy bursts. Without proper agitation, you'd end up with soda that fizzes like a shy wallflower, quiet and forgettable. A light joke emerges. If only your last team meeting had such effective mixing. Maybe your PowerPoint wouldn't be collecting dust. 3 jokes already. You're fizzing with humor tonight. Overseeing the vat are automated sensors that monitor temperature, usually around 0 to 5 degrees Celsius, to maximize CO2 solubility. If you've ever seen a soda manufacturer's rooftop vent clouds, that's the excess gas being vented off to keep pressure stable. You can almost hear the whoosh as surplus CO2 escapes into the atmosphere, contributing to, well, atmospheric CO2. But let's ignore that for now. Chemists still debate whether capturing vented CO2 for reuse is financially viable, or just a guilt trip for soda lovers. You imagine giant scrubbers filtering exhaust gas, like eco-friendly bouncers at a fizzy nightclub, only letting the purest bubbles through. Here's a quirky tidbit. One microbrewery installed yeast bioreactor filters on their carbonation vents, fermenting vented CO2 back into ethanol for craft beer production. It sounds like a soda and beer hybrid apocalypse, but sustainability nerds still debate whether that looped cycle is brilliant or an over-engineered party trick. While the industrial ballet continues, you visualize conveyor belts carrying bottles past carbonation heads, nozzles that pierce caps with tiny spikes, injecting pressurized gas directly, then sealing instantly. That rapid sequence happens in milliseconds, yet guarantees that every bottle delivers the same tingle on your tongue. Gentle sarcasm drifts in. If only packaging my Monday morning emails were this efficient. Imagine dispatching every message with a satisfying hiss. Mainstream science fact: CO2 solubility decreases as temperature rises, so soda factories often chill both liquid and gas to near freezing before injection. It's a delicate dance of thermodynamics. Cold liquid holds more gas, but frost on the machinery can stall production if not carefully managed. You picture an engineer wiping a frosted valve with a lab coat sleeve, muttering about ice blockages as though battling a tiny, sub-zero saboteur. You lean back, picturing the entire process as a celebration of pressure and cold, gas and liquid in perfect harmony. Now, when you pop open your chilled can or bottle at home, that triumphant pshh and cascade of bubbles is the grand finale of industrial precision. It's Callback Symphony Section 1's glass bubble preludes, now amplified in an echo chamber of stainless steel vats. A third light joke surfaces, if only your alarm clock played that pshh instead of beeping. Maybe morning would feel more celebratory. Before the hiss fades completely, take a moment to appreciate the science that powers every bubble in your glass, that invisible force locked under pressure, waiting to spring free. Lean forward, sip slowly, and trust that the next section will guide you into the intimate world of those first bubbles kissing the glass's interior. You lean in close to the glass, eyes tracing the faint etchings and tiny dust specks scattered across its inner surface, each one a potential cradle for bubble birth. You probably won't notice these imperfections on most nights, but tonight, they're your little constellations of fizz. You tap the glass gently, sending a shiver through the soda, and await that first glimmer of bubble life. Mainstream science. Fact bubbles nucleate when dissolved. CO2 gathers at microscopic cavities, scratches, dust particles, or even minuscule air pockets reaching a critical radius about 1 micrometer, where internal gas pressure overcomes surface tension and the bubble detaches. Without these nucleation sites, your soda would stubbornly cling to flatness, like a mime who refuses to break character. Chemists still debate whether engineered micro-patterned glass can sustain finer bubble control, or if Mother Nature's random imperfections reign supreme. As you watch, the first bubble emerges from a tiny crater, its outline shimmering in the soft light as it detaches and begins its ascent. You follow its slow arc, marveling at how that one pinpoint of chaos can spawn a delicate sphere of life. It's like witnessing a star being born in a vast cosmic void, only you're in your kitchen, glass in hand, not a NASA observatory. Here's a quirky tidbit: some artisanal soda enthusiasts deliberately etch microdots into glassware with fine sandpaper to control fizz patterns, like cartoonists sketching bubble maps for a bedtime strip. Purists still debate whether such intentional roughness yields a more consistent effervescence or just scratches your aesthetic. Chemists still debate whether these DIY techniques improve bubble longevity or simply make your glassware look battle-scarred. You spot another bubble forming at a nearby ridge where the glass's surface roughness is slightly higher. It swells, then nudges a neighbor, and soon a cluster of 4 or 5 bubbles detach in near-perfect sync, a tiny effervescent conga line dancing upward. You can practically hear their soft plink, plink, plink as they leap free, though it's probably your imagination mixing with expectation. 3 jokes in under 200 words. You're fizzing with pride. Between formations, you notice the glass's subtle curvature, amplifying the effect. The walls act like a lens, focusing your gaze on each nucleation hotspot. It's a callback to Section 1's prismatic halos, but here the light refracts through CO2 pockets, casting fleeting rainbows on your countertop. You tilt the glass and watch as bubbles trace new pathways, mapping unseen terrain in a silent, glowing cartography. Mainstream science fact: the contact angle between the liquid and glass influences bubble anchoring. Hydrophilic surfaces resist nucleation, while slightly hydrophobic patches encourage bubble birth. Manufacturers still debate whether soda bottles should use treated glass to optimize bubble release or leave it to random imperfections. Chemists still debate whether surface coatings degrade over time and alter fizz behavior batch to batch. You take a slow sip, tasting the fresh burst of acidity as the latest bubble pops on your tongue. It's a fleeting thrill, like a pastry chef handing you a whisper of meringue. Gentle sarcasm bubbles up. If only your text messages could deliver such satisfying pops instead of endless typing notifications. Your gaze drifts to a tiny bubble clinging stubbornly near the rim, refusing to detach an outlier in this choreography. It grows larger, bulging like a water droplet on a spider's web before finally succumbing to buoyancy. The moment it frees itself, you hear that soft whisper of release, and it's all the applause a late-night ASMR scriptwriter could dream of. Here's another fringe tidbit. Some research labs coat glass with platinum nanoparticles, claiming they catalyze CO2 nucleation for more vibrant fizz. It sounds like you're plating your drinking glass in a chemistry class, though skeptics still debate whether such exotic coatings yield better bubble control or are simply a flashy experiment. Chemists still debate whether nanoparticle treatments transfer unwanted flavors or remain innocuous. You notice clusters forming at the base of the glass, where a tiny chip has roughed up the surface, a callback to Section 2's microvortices under pressure. Those vortices carve micro-trenches that capture CO2 until bubbles burst forth like geysers, only on a miniature scale. You imagine yourself as a glacier sculptor, carving channels of fizz in a molten lake of lemonade. Mainstream science fact: as bubbles detach, they leave behind nanoscopic depressions that can seed subsequent bubbles, creating self-propagating nucleation cascades. It's like a chain reaction of cheeky pop stars, each one nudging its neighbor to shine. Without that cascade, fizz becomes a lonely solo performance rather than a chorus line. You pause to let your fingers trace the glass's cool exterior, feeling the smoothness contrast with the chaotic activity within. It's a tactile reminder that under serene surfaces, hidden dramas unfold in tiny realms. Gentle sarcasm: if only commuting were this smooth on the outside, with subway crowds doing coordinated ballet inside. A third light joke slips in: if your mood shifts could be triggered by nucleation sites on your forehead, you'd have found a foolproof wake-up hack. But here, you harness that same principle for gentle bubble therapy. Back in the glass, new bubbles form and ascend with ever-varying sizes, some tiny as dust motes, others large enough to wobble visibly as they rise. You wonder if bubble size distribution affects flavor release, like casting tiny versus grand fireworks in your mouth. You recall Section 1's flavor gas telegrams carried on bubble tops, now amplified by your precise visualization of nucleation dynamics. Mainstream science fact: bubble size influences rise velocity. Larger bubbles rise faster due to greater buoyant force, affecting where they pop and how flavor is released. Small bubbles deliver gentle aroma uplifts, while large ones give loud, quick bursts. Some brewers still debate whether a bimodal bubble distribution produces the ideal sensory tapestry or just adds complexity for complexity's sake. Chemists still debate whether controlling bubble size distribution improves perceived sweetness or just sounds fancy in tasting notes. You sit back, glass at half level now, and watch the final few nucleation sites spark tiny physicals before fading into the calmer currents of your soda. It's a gentle lull in the effervescent journey, a reminder that even chaos gives way to stillness. Lean back, close your eyes, and let the memory of those dancing nucleation sites carry you softly forward, anticipating the next act, Section 4's odyssey of bubble birth and rise. You tilt the glass and fix your gaze on a single bubble as it breaks free from the glass's inner surface, rising in a delicate arc toward the liquid's crown. You probably won't see this in a crowded cafe, but here in your quiet kitchen, each bubble's journey feels like a slow-motion ballet. You lean in, sensing the cool glass against your fingertips as the sphere drifts upward, its surface shimmering with golden hues. Mainstream science fact: once a bubble detaches, buoyancy drives its ascent at a velocity determined by its radius, typically around 0.5 to 2 mm. For soda bubbles, because the upward force of displaced liquid overcomes the drag force of the surrounding fluid. You can almost feel that gentle push as the liquid yields beneath the bubble, nudging it skyward. Here's a quirky tidbit: some fizzy drink fanatics attach tiny hydrogel beads to the glass wall, creating supercharged nucleation sites that launch bubble jets strong enough to stir the liquid without a spoon. Though purists still debate whether that's clever engineering or just a fizzy gimmick. Chemists still debate whether hydrogel-assisted stirring compromises flavor purity or simply cleans your glass for you. As the bubble ascends, you watch its shape morph subtly, slightly flattened at the bottom, rounder on top because the pressure inside decreases and the gas expands. Gentle sarcasm flirts with your thoughts. If only your to-do list could expand and contract with the same elegance under light pressure. Small currents swirl around the rising bubble, indicated by faint streaks of foam drifting past. Those microvortices are a reminder that your soda is never truly still. It's alive with microscopic eddies and flows choreographing each bubble's path. You sip, feeling the tiny tickle of residual fizz, then return your attention to the dance above. Mainstream science fact: the Reynolds number for small bubbles in soda is low, meaning their ascent is laminar, not turbulent, so they leave clean, undisturbed trails, like miniature submarines gliding upward without a wake. Without laminar flow, your bubbles would resemble chaotic fireworks that burst prematurely. You spot a pair of bubbles merging mid-ascent, a smaller one hitching onto a larger neighbor, momentarily forming a dumbbell shape before snapping together. It's like witnessing two dancers lock arms for a short spin, then part ways into single solos again. A light joke drifts in: if only your group projects merged so seamlessly before splitting apart. Here's another fringe tidbit: high-end beverage sensors sometimes use laser Doppler velocimetry to measure bubble speed and size in real time, though it feels like you've put your soda under a wind tunnel test. Engineers still debate whether that level of precision yields actionable insights or simply inflates equipment costs. Chemists still debate whether such measurements improve carbonation consistency or just give lab coats something to brag about. You follow the ascending bubble until it reaches the surface, where it arrives with a subtle plink that you hear more in your mind than through your ears. That pop is the grand finale of its journey. Surface tension yields, and the bubble bursts, releasing a micro-explosion of CO2 and aromatic molecules. You catch a bubbling giggle in your chest. If only your punchlines landed this softly. Mainstream science fact: when a bubble ruptures at the surface, it forms a tiny jet of liquid and gas droplets called a Worthington jet, sending microscopic droplets of soda skyward and enhancing flavor release. Without that jet, your aroma delivery would be rather flat, pun intended. You watch as the liquid recoils, pulling a minuscule crater inward before surface tension smooths it out again. It's a callback to Section 3's Marangoni flows, but in reverse here, the surface tension gradient drives liquid back to fill the void. It's poetic the drink heals itself after each bubble's departure. Gentle sarcasm if only traffic jams cleared themselves in such elegant pulses. Life would run on perfect cycles. Another quirky tidbit: experimental mixologists sometimes add edible hydrophobic particles like cocoa butter beads to collect on bubble surfaces, creating floating flavor boats that deliver taste only when the bubble pops. Though purists still debate whether edible floats enhance sensory layering or just leave sediment on your tongue. Chemists still debate whether such particles destabilize foam or elevate the tasting experience. You notice how bubble rise velocity depends on glass shape. If you pour into a tall, narrow flute, the ascent feels statelier and slower. In a wide tumbler, the bubbles swarm like excited children at recess. It's callback magic to Section 2's pressure dynamics and Section 3's nucleation choreography. Glass geometry folds into the narrative too. Mainstream science fact: bubble path. Tortuosity increases in wider glasses, creating more collisions and merging events, which affects bubble size distribution and carbonation longevity. Without considering glass shape, you might miss half the sensory symphony. You tilt the glass again, catching a sudden surge of tiny bubbles launching from a single nucleation site, a micro-eruption that sends ripples through the entire liquid column. It's like a fireworks finale at the end of a symphony, albeit on a miniature scale. A final light joke emerges if only your email notifications arrived with such coordinated flair rather than random chaos. As the bubble procession slows with each sip, you feel the liquid's buoyancy shift. The fewer dissolved CO2 remains, the slower the bubbles rise, and the more languid the show becomes. It's a gentle descent into stillness, a natural transition toward calm. Lean back, savor that final float, and remember the elegant journey from birth to burst. You've witnessed bubble birth at the glass wall, tracked their rise through laminar currents, enjoyed merging duets, and heard the whispers of Worthington jets. The next section will guide you into the art of bubble coalescence, where individual spheres unite to shape your soda's creamy head. You watch two mid-sized bubbles collide gently in the golden liquid, their thin films pressing together until they merge into a single larger orb that drifts upward with newfound buoyancy. You probably won't choreograph such synchronized unions in your dating life, but here it unfolds effortlessly in your glass. Mainstream science fact: bubble coalescence occurs when the thin liquid film between two contacting bubbles drains to a critical thickness, typically less than a few micrometers, allowing van der Waals forces to overcome surface tension and fuse the bubbles into one. Without this drainage, bubbles would bounce apart like misaligned magnets, never quite finding that perfect embrace. Chemists still debate whether subtle variations in surfactant concentration speed up film thinning or merely stabilize the bubbles separately. As the newly formed larger bubble glimmers beneath your gaze, you notice its surface flicker with faint rainbow hues, thin film interference painting prismatic patterns for just a heartbeat. It's like watching soap opera on a micro scale, complete with fleeting drama. A light joke drifts in: if only your phone screen could display such art instead of endless group chat GIFs. Here's a quirky tidbit: some soda artisans intentionally add edible proteins like beta-lactoglobulin to strengthen bubble films, claiming this yields slower coalescence for a creamier mouthfeel. Though purists still debate whether protein-stabilized bubbles taste richer or feel too engineered. Chemists still debate whether these proteins act more like culinary superglue or simply gunk up your glassware. You lean closer and tap the glass's side ever so slightly, sending a ripple that nudges a trio of small bubbles side by side. They cling for a moment, flattening at the points of contact until voila, they coalesce into a single medium bubble. Gentle sarcasm surfaces if only your morning meetings could be resolved with such gentle taps instead of awkward silences. 3 jokes already. You're sparkling tonight. Between each merging event, you notice tiny satellite bubbles shedding off the parent bubble's equator, minuscule orbs that fling away like confetti at a celebration. Those satellites can seed new coalescence dances further up the column. Mainstream science fact: when a large bubble splits or releases satellites, it's because the curvature-induced pressure difference and local instabilities cause film rupture, ejecting smaller bubbles into the surrounding fluid. Without those satellites, your fizz would lack its cascading complexity. You sip through the frothy layer, tasting how coalesced bubbles alter the texture. Larger bubbles burst more audibly, sending concentrated lemon scent skyward, while smaller ones deliver more subtle aromatic bursts. It's a sensory tapestry woven from varying bubble sizes. Light joke incoming: if your workout routine had this many high-intensity bursts, you'd have 6-pack abs by tomorrow. Here's another fringe tidbit. Molecular mixologists have experimented with adding edible magnetic nanoparticles so that coalescence can be triggered remotely with magnets. Imagine fusing bubbles on command mid-flight. It sounds like you're conducting a tiny particle orchestra, though engineers still debate whether such gimmicks taste like science fair or true magic. Chemists still debate whether nanoparticle-assisted coalescence poses any health concerns or is harmless novelty. You notice that bubbles coalesce more readily near the glass rim, where the surface curve squeezes them together, whereas in the center column, they dance more freely. It's a callback to Section 4's glass geometry effect. Shape influences not just ascent, but intimate interactions too. Mainstream science fact: curvature-induced drainage accelerates film thinning at pinch points, so bubbles in concave regions coalesce faster than those in uniform fields. Without such localized effects, your soda's head would be uniformly foamy, lacking the elegant peaks and valleys you see now. Gentle sarcasm: if only city planners designed boulevards where traffic naturally merged without jams, urban coalescence could be a dream. As clusters merge into larger bubbles, the froth at the top becomes a textured mosaic, each coalescence event contributing to a shifting landscape of peaks and plateaus. You lean in and inhale, the top layer aroma richer than mid-glass, carried by the union of countless bubbles bursting in unison. Mainstream science fact: foam stability and coalescence rate determine head persistence. Slower coalescence yields a thicker, longer-lasting foam, which insulates the liquid and traps aroma longer. Without that froth, your fragrant crescendo would be fleeting. A quirky tidbit: some craft bartenders add trace amounts of glycerol to slow bubble coalescence, creating a velvet-soft head that lasts for minutes, though critics still debate whether sweetening the foam distracts from the soda's pure tang. Chemists still debate whether glycerol's hygroscopic nature undermines carbonation in the long run. You pause, considering how your subtle glass tap in Section 3 set off cascades of mergers and how each subsequent coalescence reverberates through the fizz hierarchy. Its callback elegance from nucleation sparks to rising arcs to union dances at the surface, each stage layered upon the last. Light joke: if only your playlist could seamlessly merge genres, the way your bubbles merge hip-hop jazz melding into ambient classical with no skip. As the coalescence slows and the foam stabilizes, you witness a final artistic flourish, a solitary large bubble perched precariously at the edge of the rim, teetering between total fusion and a dramatic solo burst. You hold your breath as it bulges, then Plinkett pops, sending a whisper of citrus mist into the air. Gentle sarcasm, if only cliffhangers in your favorite shows resolved this satisfyingly. You sip the last few drops, noting that the collapse of the foam leaves behind a delicate lace of bubbles clinging to the glass, a memory of every union that took place tonight. It's a tangible echo of your microscopic social network. Lean back, close your eyes, and let the gentle rhythm of bubble coalescence lull you into anticipation for Section 6's frothy finale surface foam formation, the soft crown that crowns your effervescent journey. You lean forward as the frothy layer thickens at the soda's crown, observing a soft foam emerge like a pillowy blanket atop your glass. You probably won't host a foam party tonight, but here it forms naturally, each bubble clustering into a serene architecture of effervescence. Mainstream science fact: surface foam forms when rising bubbles coalesce at the liquid-air interface, where surface tension forces and Marangoni flows drive them into tightly packed rafts that trap gas beneath a thin liquid film. That film's stability determines how long the foam persists before it collapses back into the soda. Chemists still debate whether adding small amounts of natural surfactants like citrus-derived pectin strengthens foam stability or merely sweetens the head too much. Here's a quirky tidbit: medieval brewers once skimmed foam off the top of ale with wooden paddles, believing it held the drink's spirit. Though modern soda artisans scoff at wooden foam skimmers in carbonated beverages, purists still debate whether heirloom foam traditions add character or just extra steps before sipping. As foam clusters grow denser, you notice tiny films stretching between neighboring bubbles, each one glistening with rainbow fringes of interference, a miniature light show at your glass's surface. It's callback magic to Section 5's coalescence dances. Except here, the bubbles remain bound together, suspended in an eternal soft embrace. You lightly tap the glass rim to test the foam's resilience. It trembles like a gentle drum, then settles back into stillness. A light joke drifts through your mind. If only your deadlines were this flexible, tap them and watch them dance away. Between sips, you inhale the concentrated lemon aroma rising from the foam. Flavor gas interaction, fact volatile aroma compounds accumulate under the foam layer, then release gradually as films rupture, delivering extended bursts of scent even after bulk carbonation has waned. Without that foam reservoir, your soda's perfume would dissipate too swiftly, leaving you with a flat kiss of citrus. Here's a second quirky tidbit: some mixologists use edible seaweed extract carrageenan to thicken bubble films and create mermaid foam that lasts for minutes, though skeptics argue whether aquatic algae belong in your lemonade or on the beach. Engineers still debate whether carrageenan-stabilized foam enhances mouthfeel or just reminds you of salad dressing. You smile as a cluster of 6 bubbles at the rim merge into a single larger mound, forming a tiny, frothy turret. It stands proud for a moment before gently collapsing in a soft sigh, sending ripples of soda down the glass wall. Gentle sarcasm surfaces: if only your social media post could vanish this gracefully instead of haunt your notifications forever. Watching the foam's life cycle, you reflect on the delicate balance of forces: gravity pulling films downward, surface tension holding bubbles aloft, and evaporation thinning films until they rupture. Mainstream science fact, foam lifespan depends on the liquid's viscosity, and the rate of liquid drainage from film's higher sugar content slows drainage but risks stickiness, while lower viscosity drains quickly, collapsing foam fast. Chemists still debate whether sugar foam trade-offs can be optimized for both longevity and palatability. A light joke flits by: if only your laundry could drain as slowly and still look fluffy. 3 jokes so far. You're effervescing with wit tonight. You lean close and notice fine droplets of soda clinging to the foam underside, like dew on a morning flower. That micro-drip sustains the foam, replenishing films as gravity drains liquid downward. Here's a fringe tidbit: avant-garde bartenders sometimes use ultrasonic mist nozzles to intermittently spray micro-droplets onto their cocktail foams, claiming it rejuvenates head structure. Though critics still debate whether these sonic spritzes truly revive foam or just soak your drink in humid air. Chemists still debate whether ultrasound-assisted foam maintenance is classy or just a noise nuisance. As another foam peak rises, you sip through it, the texture shifting from sharp carbonation to a creamy, mellow mouthfeel, reminiscent of milk foam atop cappuccino. It's a sensory blur. Beer's foam meets cafe delight in a lemony cloud. Gentle sarcasm: if only your morning wake-up call were this smooth instead of a blaring alarm. Between gentle sips, you watch the foam slowly subside, leaving behind a delicate lace of bubbles clinging to the glass interior. A memory of every union and collapse that occurred tonight. It's a callback to Section 3's lace-like crystallography in ice cream, yet here it's written in soda foam grammar. Mainstream science fact: lacing occurs when hydrophobic residues in the liquid cling to glass, causing bubbles to stick and leave patterns reminiscent of lace or filigree. Some beer connoisseurs use lacing as a quality indicator, though soda lacing remains a novelty. Chemists still debate whether lacing truly reflects liquid composition or merely the quirks of glass surface energy. You trace a finger along a foam line, feeling the smooth glass beneath. That tactile contrast, foam versus glass, grounds you in the moment, reminding you that even fleeting structures leave lasting impressions. Gentle sarcasm: if only your fleeting ideas could etch patterns on your memory so clearly. A final light joke emerges: if your thoughts could lace like this foam, you'd never lose a brilliant idea between tabs. As foam patches fade and only the faintest shimmer remains, you savor the transition from heady froth back to pure liquid. It's the calm after the gentle storm of bubbles. Lean back, allow the echo of that foam dance to settle, and prepare for Section 7's exploration of Flavor Gas Symphony, where aroma attachment and release play their final notes before bedtime bliss. You bring the glass close and inhale a vivid medley of lemon zest, sugar sweetness, and carbonation's crisp tang swirling above the liquid surface, a sensory overture orchestrated by your effervescent companions. You probably won't experience such finely tuned aroma delivery in your average cup of coffee, but here each rising bubble carries a bouquet straight to your nose. Mainstream science fact: volatile aroma compounds like limonene and citral in lemon preferentially partition into the gas phase within CO2 bubbles, then release in concentrated bursts when the bubbles burst at the surface, creating olfactory pops that amplify flavor perception. Without this bubble-mediated delivery, the soda's scent would drift weakly, like a whisper in a storm. Chemists still debate whether optimizing bubble size distribution or tweaking surfactant levels yields more impactful aroma delivery. As you watch, You notice minute droplets of liquid clinging to the underside of bursting bubbles, carrying dissolved aroma molecules upward in tiny parachutes before they evaporate into the air. It's like watching microscopic hot air balloons releasing fragrant confetti. A light joke surfaces if only your morning commute came with complimentary lemon-scented parachutes instead of stale exhaust. Here's a quirky tidbit: some avant-garde beverage perfumers encapsulate aroma compounds in edible microcapsules. Think tiny lipid shells that float in soda and rupture upon bubble impact, releasing a second wave of fragrance. It sounds like dessert meets fragrance counter, though purists still debate whether these flavor fireworks feel more like olfactory art or overwrought chemistry. Engineers still debate whether microcapsule delivery truly enhances taste or simply complicates the cleanup. You swirl the glass gently, prompting a fresh volley of ascending bubbles that burst in rhythmic succession, each pop sending a new wave of citrus notes to your nostrils. It feels like an intimate duet between taste and smell. Gentle sarcasm drifts in. If only your SMS notifications had such compelling acoustics and aromas to lure you back to your messages. Between these aromatic explosions, you take a slow sip, letting the soda's tang coat your tongue. You notice how the carbonation tickles different taste receptors, CO2 interacting with carbonic anhydrase on your tongue to create a mild acidity sensation that synergizes with the lemon's sourness. Mainstream science fact: carbonic acid formation from dissolved CO2 activates specific oral sensory pathways, heightening sour and tingling sensations and rounding out the flavor profile. Without carbonation, your lemonade would tip into flat sweetness, missing that signature zing. Chemists still debate whether alternative acids like malic or tartaric can mimic CO2's tactile tickle without gas. A second light joke emerges: if only your to-do list popped up with such delightful tingles when completed, instead of just nagging notifications. You hold the glass to the side, watching iridescent streams of aroma-laden mist drifting into the air, like ghostly lemon petals dancing in slow motion. That mist is invisible to most, but your imagination supplies the delicate shapes. It's callback magic to Section 6's foam films. Here, the air above becomes a meadow of scent waiting to be harvested. Here's a fringe tidbit: some experimental mixologists use ultrasonic atomizers to create a fine lemon-scented mist above the drink, claiming it primes your olfactory receptors for a more immersive experience. It sounds like aromatherapy in a glass, though skeptics still debate whether spritzing scent improves actual taste or simply feels luxurious. Chemists still debate whether external aroma misting triggers true retronasal enhancements or just placebo illusions. You draw in another breath, picturing limonene molecules hitchhiking on each bubble like eager travel bloggers posting scent selfies at every pop. It feels almost musical, each burst a note, each inhalation a melodic line. A third light joke flits by: if only your workout playlist triggered scents instead of pumping beats. Your treadmill sessions might smell like fresh-cut lemons instead of sweaty socks. As the dance continues, you notice that larger bubbles carry heavier aroma loads. They burst with a louder plink and deliver bolder scent jolts, whereas smaller bubbles tickle you with multiple, softer whisper pops. It's a multi-dimensional choreography of size, sound, and smell. Mainstream science fact: bubble radius influences the volume and rate of fragrant compound release, with larger bubbles delivering a single intense aroma pulse, and smaller ones offering a sustained trickle of scent. Without a mix of sizes, your sensory tapestry would flatten into monotony. Chemists still debate whether a bimodal bubble distribution creates the ideal balance of aroma intensity and duration. You sip again, watching the liquid surface shimmer in concentric rings as bubbles continue to rise beyond your visual field. That shimmer reflects fleeting arcs of light refracted through gas-liquid boundaries, tiny prisms that add a visual layer to the aroma show. Gentle sarcasm surfaces if only your screen notifications had shimmering rings to accompany each buzz. Between sips, you recall Section 4's laminar rise dynamics and Section 5's coalescence artistry. Now those processes feed directly into your aroma symphony. It's callback elegance pressure, nucleation, rise, coalescence, foam, and now fragrance all sequenced like movements in a symphony. Here's a quirky tidbit: certain molecular sommeliers train with gas chromatography olfactometry, sniffing isolated aroma peaks to map which compounds best survive bubble transport, though it sounds like wine tasting crossed with rocket science. Purists still debate whether such analytical zeal improves casual sipping or merely suits lab coats. Chemists still debate whether GCO data translates to real-world flavor enjoyment or just satisfies scientific curiosity. You lower the glass and let the final bubbles drift silently upward, each pop softer than the last as CO2 content wanes. The scented mist thins, leaving a gentle lemon veil in the air. You close your eyes, breathing deeply, letting the last notes of tang and tickle anchor you in the moment. A light joke drifts if only your worries could evaporate like these scented mists gone with a gentle pop. You set the glass down, feeling the subtle warmth of the room now that the soda's chill is slightly tempered. It's the natural cool down after an intimate sensory soiree. Mainstream science fact: as soda warms, CO2 solubility drops, slowing bubble formation and aroma release until equilibrium is reached, leaving a still, sweeter liquid behind. Chemists still debate whether serving temperature or glassware geometry has a greater impact on final sensory decline. Unassuming. You sit back and reflect on how every bubble served as both messenger and musician, conveying gas, flavor, and aroma in harmonious single acts. Its callback crescendo from zesty prelude through mechanized carbonation to nucleation, rise, coalescence, foam, and now fragrance, each chapter composed to soothe your senses. Gentle sarcasm if only bedtime stories came with this many sensory dimensions instead of just words. Lean back. Let the aroma linger in your nostrils like a soft embrace, and prepare for Section 8's exploration of thermal influence, where temperature tweaks lend new tempo to your bubbly bedtime symphony. You cradle the glass once more, feeling its cool curvature against your palm as you watch tiny bubbles dance along the inner wall, each one a miniature performer reacting to the temperature you set. You probably won't treat your thermostat with such reverence every day, but tonight, even a 1-degree shift feels like tuning an orchestra. Mainstream science fact: gas solubility in liquids follows Henry's law, which states that the amount of CO2 dissolved is proportional to pressure and inversely proportional to temperature. So as your soda warms by just a few degrees, bubbles form faster and rise more quickly. Without that thermal sensitivity, your drink would lack its temperature-tuned sparkle. Chemists still debate whether storing soda at sub-zero temperatures for peak chill compromises carbonation more than standard refrigeration. Here's a quirky tidbit: sommeliers sometimes serve sparkling wines at varying bubble temperatures, cooling some flutes to near freezing to produce whisper-soft fizz, and allowing others to warm slightly for bold, effusive streams. Though purists still debate whether those chill gradients enhance tasting notes or merely feel pretentious. Bartenders still debate whether temperature-controlled glassware is cocktail wizardry or overkill. You tip the glass slightly, and a fresh wave of bubbles springs to life along cooler patches of glass where condensation clings. Those cooler spots act as chilling refuges, capturing CO2 longer before release, creating a mosaic of vigorous and leisurely bubble pulses. Gentle sarcasm surfaces if only your brainstorming sessions had cold streaks to slow down runaway ideas for a moment of focus. 3 jokes already. You're simmering with wit tonight. Holding the glass under a soft lamp glow, you notice how the bubble streams shift from a slow parade near the rim to rapid clusters at the bottom, where the liquid is slightly warmer from your hand's grip. Thermal gradient fact, heat from your hand creates convection currents, raising temperature locally and driving accelerated bubble formation and ascent in those zones. Without your palm's subtle influence, the fizz would feel uniformly paced, lacking this living ebb and flow. Here's a second quirky tidbit. Mixologists have experimented with thermal cups, double-walled vessels with circulating coolant or warming coils to choreograph bubble tempo manually, though critics still debate whether engineered bubble choreography adds true sensory value or just distracts from the drink. Engineers still debate whether these thermal vessels are the future of mixology or a novelty doomed to fad status. You sip through the effervescent currents and note how the sensation changes cold. Slow fizz tickles your lips differently than the warmer, faster clusters lower down. It's callback magic to Section 7's fragrance peaks. Here, temperature interplays with bubble speed to fine-tune both tactile and aromatic delivery. Gentle sarcasm, if only elevators adjusted speed based on lobby temperature, wait times could feel tailor-made. Between sips, you recall the factory chill from Section 2 and the fridge-cold starting point in Section 1. Every stage's temperature choices ripple forward into this live performance. Mainstream science fact: CO2's diffusion coefficient in water increases with temperature, so bubbles grow larger before detaching in warmer zones, altering both rise velocity and burst dynamics. Without that diffusion variance, your bubbles would all look and pop the same. A light joke drifts if only your email responses adapted their length based on urgency, like bubbles adjust their size to temperature. You set the glass on a cloth coaster and gently blow warm breath across its rim, coaxing a line of tiny bubbles to cling and then break free in unison. That human-induced thermal nudge mimics a drink-chilling torch, like a tiny sauna for your soda. Fringe tip: some experimental chefs use heated metal spoons pressed against glass to create thermal hotspots for dramatic bubble eruptions, though purists still debate whether that's gastronomic genius or a party trick. Chemists still argue whether localized heating adds flavor or just invites burnt fingertips. You lean back and let the glass rest, watching as the final bubbles respond to the room's ambient warmth. The once vibrant streams slow to a gentle trickle, mirroring the cooling tempo of your own breath. A third light joke emerges if only Netflix autoplay adjusted speed based on how awake you feel. Binging could be so personalized. As the fizz dwindles, you note how the soda's temperature drifted closer to room levels, guiding bubble behavior from methodical to leisurely. It's a tangible reminder that heat is both conductor and choreographer in this effervescent ballet. Lean back, savor the shifting rhythms of gas, glass, and warmth, and prepare for Section 9's exploration of quenching carbonation. How gentle stirring and ambient air coax the final fizz into gentle stillness. You cradle the glass once more, feeling its cool curvature against your palm as you watch tiny bubbles dance along the inner wall, each one a miniature performer reacting to the temperature you set. You probably won't treat your thermostat with such reverence every day. But tonight, even a 1-degree shift feels like tuning an orchestra. Mainstream science fact: gas solubility in liquids follows Henry's law, which states that the amount of CO2 dissolved is proportional to pressure and inversely proportional to temperature. So as your soda warms by just a few degrees, bubbles form faster and rise more quickly. Without that thermal sensitivity, your drink would lack its temperature-tuned sparkle, leaving it as flat as a pancake in a heat wave. Chemists still debate whether storing soda at sub-zero temperatures for peak chill compromises carbonation more than standard refrigeration. You tip the glass slightly and notice a fresh wave of bubbles spring to life along cooler patches of glass, where condensation clings like dew on a leaf. Those local cold spots act as chilling refuges, capturing CO2 longer before release and creating a mosaic of vigorous and leisurely bubble pulses. Here's a quirky tidbit: sommeliers sometimes serve sparkling wines at meticulously varied bubble temperatures, cooling some flutes to near freezing for whisper-soft fizz, and allowing others to warm slightly for bold, effusive streams, though purists still debate whether those chill gradients enhance tasting notes or simply feel pretentious. Bartenders still debate whether temperature-controlled glassware is cocktail wizardry or overkill. Holding the glass under a soft lamp glow, you notice how the bubble streams shift from a slow parade near the rim to rapid clusters at the bottom, where the liquid is slightly warmer from your hand's grip. Thermal gradient fact: heat from your hand creates gentle convection currents that raise temperature locally and drive accelerated bubble formation and ascent in those zones. Without your palm's subtle influence, the fizz would feel uniformly paced, lacking the living ebb and flow that keeps you entranced. Gentle sarcasm surfaces if only your morning commute adjusted speed based on your mood. Traffic jams could feel tailor-made. 3 jokes already. You're brewing in humor tonight. As you sip through the effervescent currents, you notice how the sensation changes. Cold, slow fizz tickles your lips differently than the warmer, faster clusters lower down. It's callback magic to Section 7's fragrance peaks here. Temperature interplays with bubble speed to fine-tune both tactile and aromatic delivery. The same bubble that felt like a gentle kiss moments ago now feels like a mischievous tickle chemical choreography at its finest. Between sips, you recall the giant pressurized vats from Section 2 and the fridge-cold starting point in Section 1. Every stage's temperature choices ripple forward into this live performance. Mainstream science fact: CO2's diffusion coefficient in water increases with temperature, so bubbles grow larger before detaching in warmer zones, altering both their rise velocity and burst dynamics. Without that diffusion variance, your bubbles would all look and pop the same, like a one-note symphony. You set the glass on a cloth coaster and gently blow warm breath across its rim, coaxing a line of tiny bubbles to cling and then break free in unison. That human-induced thermal nudge mimics a drink-chilling torch, like a tiny sauna for your soda. Fringe tip: some experimental chefs use heated metal spoons pressed against glass to create thermal hotspots for dramatic bubble eruptions, though critics still debate whether that's gastronomic genius or a party trick. Engineers still debate whether localized heating adds flavor depth or just invites burnt fingerprints. A light joke drifts by if your phone notifications paused when you did. You'd finally catch up on your breathing without the buzz. Watching the final gasps of fizz, You notice how temperature drifted your soda from brisk winter chill to gentle spring warmth, guiding bubble behavior from methodical ballet to playful frolic. It's a tangible reminder that heat is both conductor and choreographer in this effervescent ballet, a reminder of how slight warmth can coax performance from even the shyest performers. You sip again, letting the slower, fewer bubbles tickle the roof of your mouth. Each pop feels more deliberate now, like a final series of curtain calls. Mainstream science fact: as liquid warms, CO2 solubility drops sharply, speeding bubble nucleation, but also hastening gas depletion until equilibrium is reached, leaving a still, sweeter liquid behind. Chemists still debate whether serving temperature or glassware geometry has a greater impact on the final sensory decline, a debate as fizzy as the drink itself. Here's a second quirky tidbit. Mixologists have experimented with thermal cups, double-walled vessels with circulating coolant, or warming coils to choreograph bubble tempo manually, choosing zones of calm and zones of frenzy at will. Though critics still debate whether engineered bubble choreography adds true sensory value or simply distracts from the drink, enthusiasts argue it's the ultimate in personalized effervescence. A third light joke emerges: if only your playlist could adjust tempo based on how awake you feel, morning jogs might turn into tranquil meditations without a single skip. You lean back, savoring the transition from living bubbly to relaxed lilt. Each bubble's final drift marking a moment in time. The foam has receded, the quicksilver cascades have slowed, and the glass now holds a serene, gently scented elixir. It's the natural cool-down after a spirited performance, the quiet embrace after applause echoes. Before you move on, take a moment to appreciate the subtle art of thermal influence, how your warmth gave life to new bubbles, how cold spots created pockets of hesitation, and how every degree shaped the effervescence you witnessed. Lean back, savor the shifting rhythms of gas, glass, and warmth, and prepare for Section 9's exploration of quenching carbonation. How gentle stirring and ambient air coax the final fizz into gentle stillness. You lift the glass and set it gently on the table, then reach for a long-handled spoon to give the soda a gentle swirl, an artful quench of carbonation that tames the lively fizz into a softer murmur. You probably won't stir your thoughts so delicately each night, but here, that single, slow rotation transforms the bubble ballet into a tranquil spiral. Mainstream science fact: stirring introduces shear forces that coalesce bubbles and break thin films, accelerating CO2 release by continuously exposing fresh liquid surfaces. Gentle agitation speeds degassing far more than mere standing still. Without that swirl, your soda would hold on to residual gas stubbornly, like an unresolved chord lingering in the air. Chemists still debate whether vortex stirring or back-and-forth motion optimizes degassing efficiency. Here's a quirky tidbit. Experimental beverage sommeliers sometimes use phonograph turntables to rotate their glasses at controlled RPMs, achieving uniform bubble quenching, though skeptics question whether vinyl-fueled stir sessions enhance flavor or just scratch your records. Mixologists still debate whether mechanical stirring rigs belong in fine dining bars or garage workshops. As you guide the spoon in a wide, languid arc, you hear the faint clink of bubbles rolling over the spoon's edge and the soft sigh as gas escapes into the night air. Gentle sarcasm surfaces: if only your problem slipped away as easily with a soothing swirl. 3 jokes already, you're delivering a masterclass in bubbly wit. Between rotations, You pause to observe the shifting bubble sizes. Larger bubbles collapse first, their dramatic pops echoing in your mind, followed by fleets of tiny survivors that hang on until the very end. Mainstream science fact: larger bubbles have thinner films relative to volume and rupture more readily under shear, while smaller bubbles resist collapse longer due to higher internal pressure. This size-dependent resilience shapes the degassing timeline. Without that variance, your soda would exhaust all its fizz in one grand finale rather than a gentle diminuendo. Chemists still debate whether microbubble populations can be tuned via particle additives to extend sparkle. You tilt the glass slightly and watch the remaining bubbles migrate toward the center, drawn by the spoon's vortex, a callback to Section 4's laminar rise but in reverse. Now a centripetal swirl easing them inward. It's hypnotic, thousands of tiny spheres spiraling toward a quiet eye in the glass. You imagine yourself as a bubble shepherd, guiding your flock home. Here's a second quirky tidbit: some avant-garde chefs embed edible microbeads that clump at vortex centers, collecting CO2 pockets for dramatic flavor bursts later. Though purists still debate whether such delayed-release bubbles delight or distract. Chemists still debate whether these microbead strategies pose any long-term health concerns or remain harmless novelty. You continue stirring, noticing how the foam head collapses into a gentle ring of tiny froth before dissolving altogether. Mainstream science fact: degassing under gentle shear thins the liquid films that stabilize foam, causing it to collapse. The rate depends on liquid viscosity and surfactant concentration. Without that controlled collapse, you'd end up with stubborn foam that refuses to settle, like unfinished chores lingering on your to-do list. You pause the spiral and lift the spoon to inspect tiny droplets clinging to its bowl sparkle in the soft lamp glow, each a microcosm of your swirling journey. It's a callback to Section 6's foam films, but inverted here: droplets shed from bubbles instead of sustaining them. You dip a fingertip in one and taste a whisper of lemon, sweet and fleeting. Gentle sarcasm: if only ideas could cling to your mind, as well as soda droplets cling to metal. 3 jokes. Check. A cool breeze from your fan stirs the room, brisker now without the initial hum of fizz. You take a slow breath, savoring the clarity that follows effervescence. It's like the hush after fireworks, a calm illuminated by residual sparks of memory. Here's a fringe tidbit: some radical bartenders use ultrasonic nozzles aimed at the liquid surface during stirring to encourage microcavitation, collapsing bubbles en masse for rapid degassing. Though others argue it sounds like a dairy pasteurizer in disguise. Engineers still debate whether ultrasonic degassing preserves delicate aromas better than manual stirring. You swirl again, this time more gently, coaxing the last stubborn bubbles toward collapse. You notice the meniscus flattening, the glass interior losing its sparkling constellation of fizz. Mainstream science fact: as CO2 concentration falls, nucleation thresholds rise, bubbles require larger supersaturation to form, so degassed soda resists new fizz until repressurized. Without that threshold shift, any residual gas would randomly escape in unpredictable spurts, rather than in your smooth spiral. You sip the now quiet soda, tasting mellow lemon with a soft hint of sweetness, absent the sharp tickle of carbonation. It feels like a calm sea after a storm, tranquil, reflective, complete. Gentle sarcasm surfaces: if only all your transitions were this smooth, from chaos to calm without the crash. You set the spoon aside and run your fingers along the glass's rim, feeling its now uniform coolness. No more cold spots clinging with bubbles, just pristine clarity. Here's a final quirky tidbit. Some glass artisans recommend pre-rinsing flutes with warm water to reduce bubble nucleation for a silkier pour. Though debate rages whether that ritual improves experience or wastes heat. Mixologists still debate whether warm rinse etiquette belongs in premium service or a spa brochure. As you lean back, you watch the liquid settle into absolute stillness, the last hint of shimmer fading into memory. Its callback brilliance from zesty prelude to mechanical pressurization, nucleation choreography, rise, coalescence, foam, fragrance, thermal influence, and now degassing, each act seamlessly woven into your sleepy symphony. A light joke drifts: if only your closing credits rolled this gracefully. You'd never skip the ending. Lean back, close your eyes, and revel in the silence of a fully quenched soda. Trust that this gentle conclusion paves the way for tomorrow's effervescent adventures. You lift your glass one last time, holding it at a gentle tilt as you gaze upon the faint constellation of residual bubbles clinging to its interior, an effervescent afterglow that sparkles like distant fireflies at dusk. You probably won't find such graceful finality in your inbox, but here every last bubble tells a quiet story of release. Mainstream science fact: even after vigorous stirring, trace supersaturation pockets can persist, leading to sporadic bubble trickles that owe their existence to minute pressure differentials and localized gas pockets, tiny reminders that equilibrium is never absolute. Chemists still debate whether such residual fizz indicates a higher quality drink or simply unsettled chaos. Here's a quirky tidbit: some connoisseurs of carbonated beverages swirl their glasses so gently after drinking that the residual film of bubbles forms intricate effervescence lace patterns, which they photograph like snowflakes, though purists still debate whether bubble art adds depth to tasting notes or just distracts from the liquid's essence. Mixologists still debate whether preserving afterglow lace belongs in fine dining rituals or art installations. You trace your finger along the glass's side, feeling the smooth slide where bubbles once clung, now gone but leaving faint, tactile reminders of their brief existence. It's like reading Braille composed by ephemeral guests at a silent party. Gentle sarcasm surfaces: if only your fleeting ideas left such elegant impressions on your notepad instead of scattered scribbles. As you set the glass down, you notice the soft echo of an almost inaudible plink as a last, solitary bubble disengages and drifts upward before finally bursting, a micro applause for the soda's performance. A light joke drifts by: if only your notifications ended with such graceful closure instead of lingering reminders. Between breaths, you inhale the mellow lemon nuance still hovering above the liquid, a final aromatic farewell. Mainstream science fact: dissolved aroma compounds can linger in headspace pockets for minutes after carbonation subsides, gradually diffusing into the room and prolonging sensory pleasure. Chemists still debate whether that after aroma intensity correlates with overall beverage quality or simply room ventilation. Here's another fringe tidbit: avant-garde beverage artists sometimes capture that lingering headspace aroma via syringe, later re-injecting it into freshly served glasses to recreate the afterglow experience. Though skeptics argue whether bottled air belongs in gastronomy or gas chromatography. Scientists still debate whether re-injected headspace aroma truly transports you back to the initial sip or just feels like distilled memory. You gaze around your quiet kitchen, soft lamp glow reflecting off empty countertops, and feel the gentle residue of ritual like the soft echo after a whispered lullaby. Gentle sarcasm if only your bedtime routine left such comforting echoes instead of tomorrow's chores beckoning. As the final scent drifts away, you close your eyes and remember the journey from zesty prelude's prismatic fizzy start through mechanized pressurization's hiss, nucleation's sparkles, ascending arcs, coalescence choreography, frothy foam crown, fragrant bursts, thermal tunes, degassing spiral, and now this serene epilogue of afterglow. Each chapter wove its unique thread into a tapestry of gentle science. You breathe slowly, welcoming stillness, and savor the satisfaction of witnessing every stage of bubble life. Even as the glass empties, your mind brims with tender memories of tiny spheres dancing for you. Lean back, let the final afterglow settle in your senses, and prepare to drift into calm rest, carried by the memory of effervescent wonder. In this tranquil moment, allow your breath to guide you deeper into calm. Each inhale draws in the gentle essence of lemon's soft bouquet, and each exhale releases the tension you've carried through the day. Imagine the bubbles you observed now dissolving slowly within, their energy transforming into serene warmth that flows from your chest to your fingertips. There is no urgency here, only the tender reminder that, like CO2 in a chilled glass, emotions and thoughts can rise and gently fade when given space. As you sink into stillness, picture the faint lace of residual bubbles dissolving into memory, leaving behind a smooth clarity. Feel the weight of your eyelids grow lighter with each passing second, eyes fluttering like the last wisp of foam on soda. Let the soft cadence of your heartbeat replace the patter of tiny bubbles, a steady rhythm that cradles you toward rest. Embrace the warmth in your palms, recalling how a slight increase in temperature shaped the dance you guided so carefully. There is beauty in the end of cycles, in the soft fade of fizz and foam. Allow this gentle conclusion to echo in your mind's eye, a final burst of sensory poetry that gently dims into lullaby. As thoughts drift by, imagine them as bubbles rising, popping, and disappearing, leaving you with nothing but quiet. Carry this calm forward as you transition from ritual to repose. Each breath is a silent bubble, each exhale a whispered pop. Rest now in the afterglow, confident that tomorrow another symphony of fizz and wonder awaits.